Going live. Heard that. Make sure everybody can see me. I don't think I need the stream deck on this one. Make sure it's over here. And we'll get started on this. So this is going to be a pretty quick, I want to call it an episode because this is actually like me walking with you guys on going through essentially what I would call a Scrum session on something that we've been wanting to tackle for a while. I want to make sure we get a thumbs up on audio and stuff before I get into this. This is kind of a, is that even a triangle? And don't worry about the chat. I will clean up the thing so you guys can see behind here. Because we're going to write some of this again for you guys to understand what I'm going to be going through with you guys. Is this really live? Yes, it is live. So we got a good, we're good, and everybody can hear me? And then we'll get into this. I'm going to take the assumption they can hear me, otherwise they'd be saying can't hear me. So our basic goal tonight is very simple. We are going to be going through essentially what I'm going to call a Scrum session, going through the project of the mining resource database. This is a database that for a while we've been trying to put together and bring to the community in a very engaging way that allows you guys to participate and tell us your feedback, and then us capture that and put that onto the website with to have a one-stop shop when it comes to actual mining, be it ASIC, be it actual GPU mining, be it anything in this genre, having a one-stop shop where everything's at, where you guys can go back and reference. It's not going to take away forums or any of that kind of communication, but the basic concept is to use a basic Agile methodology on capturing the major components of what's going to be in this database, and then make sure that we have it sourced correctly with the right portfolio items and pieces of information that allows you to get to the information you're looking for quickly and efficiently. Like if you're trying to build a rig and you're looking for something specific from an issue that you're having, that it's kind of like a self-help center. So it's a database with a self-help center, so you can sit there and just drill down children of selected member, straight to the component that you were looking for, the piece of information that you're looking for. So that's what we're aiming for on this, and this really kind of comes back from my background on software development side and leading large teams, is I'm going to try to apply that kind of methodology to what we do here on Bits Be Trippin' to make sure you guys have the right information. And I want to solicit that information with you guys as we start to go through it. So what we're going to do today, and try to keep it kind of clear and concise, is we're going to start with just the project framework. What we're looking at, what major components that we're going to try to fill out tonight, that will be then used to set up the basic structure of that mining database. Because we have some of this stuff already kind of pre-built. But what I want to do is make sure everybody's in agreement with validation of this. People have an opportunity to post to the chat. I can go back and review said chat. And you guys can review, put comments on there saying, hey, you're missing this under this particular area. And then we can take all that information and put that in a nice form on the website. So I'm going to walk you through first the structure of what kind of a Scrum kind of grooming session. That's what this effectively is. This is our first, welcome to the first grooming session on the product that we're trying to create here, which is the mining resource database. And in that, in this Scrum, in this methodology, you have to have very specific kind of component structures. So you have to have, what are your epics? That's kind of your top level groups, let's say categories in this case. And I'm going to be trying to draw a cross comparison to a way software development works. So you're kind of learning how software development from at least a information gathering and an infrastructure, a structure, how software can come together. A lot of this has that same symbiotic kind of build. So you have your larger kind of epics. In this case, we are going to be looking at our major categories as hardware, software, tools, configuration, and troubleshooting. Now I know it seems weird because some of these things are things, some of these things are events. It's okay. Our actual thing on this has to do with the actual categories that we're trying to, when we're looking at mining resources, what are the main kind of components. You know, you got your hardware mining rig, be it ASIC, be it GPU rigs. You got your software that you're going to put on there, the OS. You got the tools that you're going to want to have on there. You got the configuration, because that matters a lot, on there. And then you have things that you have to go through and do some troubleshooting for, right? So, and if you run into issues. So those are the major components. The next layer down from that, so you can think of if you're on a menu on a website and you have the very top levels has a selection, and you hit a plus and that expands. That's called an accordion. That breaks that down. These have your subcategories. From there you have your main portfolio items. Those main portfolio items would be one layer down from the hardware. And there's different ways to depict this. There's like no real, people will say there's kind of a right way, but it really comes down to what way to put that information in a way that people can consume and it makes sense. You can also make changes. Some of this stuff starts as spitballing. Literally, you throw it up on the board and you see, does that make sense? Does it make sense in that context? And you may pivot it sometimes to make more sense as you start to peel it apart. That's okay. That's part of that iterative process. So in this particular thing, we're looking at hardware dropping down to ASICs, GPU, and CPU. Very top level has to do with hardware. Now granted, we can break those pieces down, that GPU, into more like computer, but in this world, since this is a mining database thing, we're going to look at the GPU as the entire computer that circumstantially has GPUs in it. So when we start saying GPU, you'll start talking about the actual GPUs, and we can break it down into the computer components that make up a mining rig and all that. We can add to that CPUs, all those different categories, if that's the way that makes sense from the community side to represent it that way. So right now this is just a spitball of the main three categorical things on mining in general, which are usually centered around CPUs, GPUs, and ASICs. Underneath that is the stories. These are usually in software development. You have your epics, your big things, you have your portfolios. Sometimes some places consider epic and portfolios the same level. No worries about this. We're going to use it as a subordinate in this case. Under that you have like your main category of stories. And those particular pieces are a breakdown of any one of these components here. So like on the ASIC here, it's going to have one to many things. On this, what we have broken down here in the database will be Bitcoin ASICs, script ASICs, and X11 ASICs. We'll add more, right? The basic concept is here is not that you're necessarily going to partake or purchase one, but to have an information source to get what is what. What's an Antminer S9? What's its performance? I don't want to go to 5 websites. I want to go to one website that has its sourced information, kind of like a Wikipedia in a way, from just mining. It's a single source database that is updated by the community that we will work together with. We'll create the structure, but then have one source that we can go to from at least a system of record, right? We can figure out like, okay, that makes sense. There's things that can be expanded in this that we'll add over time, such as maybe updated pricing, get APIs directly define pricing, and use it kind of like a price shopper type of thing. That's all things that can build off this, but those are kind of pie in the sky. We want those ideas, we want those suggestions from the community of what makes sense. But what we're trying to do right now is just lay out the foundation. So from that, you can see additional GPU types, performance, power, algorithms. This is more that kind of spreadsheet view that you've seen on some other wiki sites. That would be under the hardware section, right? Just overall, what's this do, what's this cost, what's the power, what's the average? And then maybe have one category in there that we add that says, hey, BBT Carter has tested this, here's what we got, and here's the video to that. So that's that extra sauce that helps us really drive people to the particular findings that we found, and then we want to see what you guys have done. Because if you guys see me do it on the actual site, that's great. You guys can see, you may be able to replicate it if you get the same card and all that kind of stuff, but having your own results added to that is huge, and that's what we want to try to facilitate here. So really, it's getting the structures, and then we'll get the methodology for you guys to be able to get it to us. Same thing with software, and I'm going to go through these with you guys, because what we're going to try to do is build this part first. And what I'm saying first by like this part, this week, get initial layout done with this. Then we'll go into the task and the other pieces that might end up being videos and that kind of content, right? So this is kind of a short suspense. It's whoever's on this video, and then whoever gets to see this video over a few days, and then we can expand it from there. But software, when you're mining, you're really limited to a few pieces of software, especially on the GPU side. It's the OS and essentially the mining software. So the operating system, you have essentially Windows, from just the basic Microsoft Windows. It's either Home, Professional, Enterprise, it doesn't matter. Windows, and then you got your different variations of Linux builds, right? Where you have just straight raw Linux. You take Ubuntu, you deploy it, and then you go pull a miner down from GitHub and compile it yourself. Put some text in there. You can do it that way. That's free and cheap. Takes a little more knowledge to be able to go out there and set up Linux onto a board or onto a memory card and get it out there. Then you got Simple Mining OS, which is a kind of a pay per service, $2 per mining rig, makes things a lot more simpler, easier management structure. These are the kind of content that will be under these categories. These are more categorical, and then when we break down Simple Mining, link to the site, what's the main benefits. This is the stuff that I'm soliciting from you guys to say, what would you like to see under that? Pricing, reliability, those kind of things that we can make subjective things to say, hey, this is what our experience is, and then we can have like a review section under there. So it's really building around this mining resource database. This is the whole theme here, is I want to have a centralized area behind this. ETH-OS, another OS, Pimp-OS, I think it's NV-OS. There's other OSs here that I want to get from you guys to have added to this list. Options, where are these from? Now we can parse Bitcoin talk.info and see that kind of information, right? And try to add that to that. But what we're looking for is from you guys, right? So mining OSs, OS in general, tools. Here's another big one. We use a lot of different tools when we're going through the mining operations with you guys, right? We use overclocking tools, voltage tools, monitoring tools, administrative tools, like PowerShell, those kind of things. You see, if anybody's just exposed to mining and they're trying to figure out like what are all these things and why do they use them. So it's not just the who, what, when, and where, and how, and why. Those are very important things to that. But when to use those particular tools, what are they and how to download them, that kind of stuff. So really identification. So the main tool sets categorically like that, and then these would be subs. So like overclocking, some of these cross territories, some of these are overclocking and voltage, right? I mean, these could be meta tags, but really, what is the connection to those? Again, MSI Afterburner, big tool that's used a lot. Overclocker in tool, we just used that just in the last video that we had, showing some overclocks on, I believe it was the Zotac we were doing with. We got EVGA Precision, Wattman, Watt Tool, sound the same, different tools. Polaris Editor when you're doing BIOS editing, ATI WindFlash, the different methodologies behind that, right? You get parts of these in each of the videos. Like we may use it here, we may use it there, but nothing that's one central source. That's really what this is, to identify all the tools. There's tools on here that we don't have that you guys use, right? And say, hey, this is the way I use this, and this is the version. That kind of information is what we're looking from a contribution standpoint. You guys say, hey, here's a suggestion. What about this tool? Here's a link to it. You guys check it out. We'll get it added to the actual database piece here. Configuration. Optimal configurations. There's different configurations for different people for a different task. If somebody has very low power cost, they're going to want to drive as much speed and much output as possible on the actual mining cards, right? If you have somebody that has a good, a very high power cost and a lot of rigs, and they got to be careful with what they're spending on that, then you're going to want power savings type of setups. Or maybe you're in an apartment and you just don't have 20 amp connections, and you need to keep your amperage down to where you're under 12 or 15 amp because you got other things plugged into it. Those things matter to people. So there's different flavors for different people. I see a lot of the comments and people are like, don't use that setting, use this. This gets more output. That's 30 mega hash on that card. And somebody's like, I need 27 because I need to step it down because I got it on 12. I got 3 other things plugged into this and I'm going to pop a circuit. So those kind of things here. So when people can identify, when they've identified the rig they want and the OS that they want, and the tools that they're going to need for that, what configuration meets their need. So that kind of stepping through and having that a basic knowledge, if you're a new person to this space, to get to that. And instead of perusing, 8 different maybe websites that have old information, that this stuff stays updated and is contributed to. That's kind of the goal here. Again, and it's something that you guys contribute and you guys have available to you. And then from that has, auto starting routines, air resistant, which means like, putting like a -R in your Claymore syntax to automatically restart the miner if you see that it freezes, that kind of stuff. We don't really teach that kind of stuff to you guys when we're doing stuff, because we're just trying to see what the performance is output of the machine, right? And we're trying to figure out like, hey, what's this thing get out of it? What kind of power it is, and that's all we really usually show you guys in the reviews, but not really getting into what to do if you have some restart issues. Putting that -R in the Claymore set, that matters, right? So to keep your uptime going, because if you're sleeping and the machine goes down, that's horrible, right? So a database of the different I'm just getting blasted with messages. Yeah, different a BIOS database. I know you guys have been wanting that. We have a lot of BIOSes. It's more of a making sure that we can upload them without pricking any EULAs or anything, but having a repository of BIOSes that match to the card, that match to the memory, of uploading that. We have probably 150 different BIOSes out there for different cards, brands, combos, that kind of stuff. I want to extend that to you guys. I have that available, and I want to be able to match that up to actual other BIOSes with folks. Wattage settings, syntax, and BATs. This is what we try to accomplish. This, to give you an idea of the scope, that syntax in a BAT file is essentially the MultiMiner. That was one item on a list. This is one story. In development, that would be one story, right? Underneath an epic, or underneath a portfolio, underneath an epic for this project. One story is essentially the MultiMiner. That is to have a very simplified BAT file that references all the world's best miners and already has the pre-built syntax in there, so where you just have to change a few things. That was what our goal was on that, is to simplify the process for the barrier of entry, to where you have somebody that's throwing hate because we're buying up all the graphics cards, and they're like, what is all this hype? Well, you download the MultiMiner, pull down a wallet address, put it in there, and just hit one button on there, and you're mining, right? That was the goal, to show people this, that they could contribute to it and get a little bit of crypto for their time, right, and their power. That's the MultiMiner. So syntax in the BAT file. Finding, and most of the pools have that syntax usually on their like help. It'll show like a reference to the popular miner, and then here's the kind of syntax that you need to have in running the miner. But having some basic automation scripts. Automation scripts in Windows is pretty straightforward. You just have a shortcut to that BAT file, and you put it in your Windows startup, and then when the machine restarts, that's the kind of automation that I'm talking about. Like if you're gone and the machine restarts, you want that miner to kick back on, right? So that kind of automation stuff, how to do that, where to go and get that from, that's the kind of content that would be in that story, right? And then advanced scripting. Advanced scripting gets a little more detailed. It could then correlate into some of the Linux builds, to where you're going in there and you're putting in some more like failover for pools. Like if a pool goes down, that happens. I know a lot of people that were trying to mine Bitcoin Gold and all the drama behind that, and there are other different pools, and when new coins come out, like if one pool goes down, you don't want your miner to go down, you automatically fell over to another pool. That kind of stuff, right? How to do that. But categorically, that might be failover. And then it has advanced scripting underneath that, and then some examples of that script. That's kind of I'm probably off the chart here, but that's the kind of the piece that I'm talking about here. And then the stuff that's behind this little chat box that you guys can't see on that because of the chat box here is essentially troubleshooting. On the troubleshooting scope is stability, sustainability, thermals, those kind of things that what are some of the troubleshooting? I'm going to take my watch off because this thing just keeps going crazy. These different items that troubleshooting is about stability. At the end of the day, well, it could also be that the damn thing doesn't work. And that's a whole other issue. But and we'll put that in there. Working rig. So in this would be a whole bunch of reasons why a rig might not work. You know, is it a riser? Have you tested this? Testing steps. But I want to do it from the inverse. I want to state a problem. And I'm really going to want your guys' support on that. To where if you're having a problem, state the problem. Now, most of the problems are going to be, I booted up my rig, it's in Windows, I see 4 cards, I got 6 plugged in, I don't know what's going on. Most of that kind of stuff, when you're missing cards, usually has to do with the BIOS on the motherboard or something to do with your riser. 9 times out of 10, that's the 2 things that it is. It's something in your BIOS that's not configured correctly, or you have purchased a motherboard that is not supportive of that without a lot of drama. And what I mean by that is a lot of trial and error on the different settings, because it's something that hasn't been really tested and went through the trials and tribulations in mining. Well, a lot of the questions I get directly have everything to do with that. Hey, I bought this this version of a motherboard. It's a Z170 by this brand, BioStar, and it's not like a mining board, and I can't find 4G encoding. More than likely, it's probably going to be easier for you to go get a mining board that makes sense. So identifying quickly the critical boards, the critical hardware, right? If this was motherboards, you know, if it's a B250 mining expert, it's an H1110 plus ASRock, the H81 Pro BTC, things that are certified to know that we, like, enough of people in the community have enough support on it to show you how to make it work, right? Those kind of things. So really linking to make sure, one, you're purchasing the right stuff. Now, some people are going to try to probably build their own based on the hardware that they have extra laying around. And that's perfectly okay, but to try to expect that to actually support more than 4 to 6 cards sometimes is a stretch, because it wasn't really designed to do that. So getting, you know, in some of the earlier boards in 2014, that's the way they were. They just weren't really designed for it. And then the ASRock H81 Pro BTC came out, and like world hunger was solved when it came to 6-card GPU mining rigs. So that kind of stuff, talking troubleshooting, having that troubleshooting guideline. I know most of the folks here really want to see this one. They don't care. They can go find hardware. They can find software. They can figure out tools. The troubleshooting is the PITA. That's the pain in the ass stuff of having that. So part of this activity on this video, I want folks, if this is number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, if people are saying number 5 Epic is the most important, we're going through the Scrum session right now. Part of the Scrum session is going through a product backlog, identifying to make sure that we're consistent on what we're trying to create or present to a product owner, and then setting a priority. Priorities are key. Everybody wants everything. But if I said you can have 2 things in 1 week, which 2 are they? That's the way you present that argument. Everybody wants everything all the time up front. That's the way it is. But the only way you're going to be successful is if you choose a priority, you do your number 1 and you knock them off. And when you hit that timeline, that's what gets released. You move on to the next 2 weeks, and you come back to that same argument. They're pissed and whatever, and they're like, I wanted 5. I'm like, I got you. You got 3 left. What are your other 2? And they're like, but you only got 3 left. What's your other 2? And you stand your ground. You get the other 2 done. Right? That's an effective way to get things done. And by that 3rd week or 4th week, whatever the sprint cycle you have, and you're at that last one, you're like, okay, got that one done. Okay, what's next on the list? And I bet you they're not ready for you. And that's the way that cycle works. So we're going to go through this, the major epics. We're going to get that created, that shell created, and then come back to you guys in this style of video and make sure that, okay, here's the basic structure. What else are we missing on this next lower level? I can see this being a 5 to 8 week project right now of just getting this structured and built and laid out through the at least story levels where it's functional to where you guys can contribute. That's our goal. Is what we're trying to do is achieve the functionality standpoint. The content part, you'll sit there and beat yourself to death all day long. That's what we've done for the last like 5 months, is trying to make sure we had enough content. And the whole time I'm like, you know what? We need to take this, present it, and make sure people can contribute to it, can be part of it. Because we're not going to, we only know the stuff that we've had experience with and the way we fix things. And you guys watch me go through this stuff live And as I'm finding issues, I'm sometimes just fixing them. And I'm trying to communicate to you guys of what I'm doing. But I've done it so many times that sometimes it's just innately the way things are. And if anybody's ever stood behind somebody when you're doing like some kind of work share and then somebody's just doing the job and you're like, dude, how am I supposed to learn this, right? That's the kind of stuff that I sometimes get into when I'm doing this. And what I'm trying to do is solicit from you guys some of the stuff that we're missing. You know, content. So perusing that content, I think, will help us build this and make this, you know, this data mining database is going to be on bitsbetrippin.com. That's the section that we're going to put it on there. It's been sitting out there for like 3 months with nothing on it, and I want to fill it with this stuff. So this has been 25 minutes right now. This is the basic layout and the structure from an epic, a portfolio, and a story level. The levels after that are tasks and bugs and issues, right? So that is saying that in this context with an information sharing like this would be if we have something on here and it's not working the same way. It's say, hey, you have that this is the way this works, but it doesn't work for me. Here's my results. We can flag that as a bug or an issue and say, well, maybe we can try to fix that, or what was your fix? If we don't have that hardware and you ended up fixing it, then we can close those issues out. I want to treat this kind of like an internet version of us troubleshooting the stuff together to make the self-help better for everybody. It's a community contribution piece that we will help manage, right? And bring that stuff to you guys. And if it's very valuable to you guys, we're, instead of, you know, doing like an ICO or any of this crazy stuff to try to get a, you know, some kind of capital for it, if this generates you guys, you know, a positive result, then, you know, we'll, you know, there's donation things out there. It's like a Wikipedia. You can use it and you can donate to kind of keep that output going. Better donations make that faster because I can hire people, because essentially it's myself and a few other BBTers that contribute their time to this. This is essentially an open source project, right? That we contribute the time that we can, and I'm going to try to contribute it from maintaining control from like a Scrum Master level. Block and tackle, make sure things are moving forward. So, you know, if people are interested in partaking in this, if people are interested in helping from a development standpoint to even speed this up, we'll obviously open it up to that too, because we want this to be the one-stop shop for people that are mining, right? And this is a good thing for the community. So I want to, at that point, we're right at 27 minutes. This is the first part. I don't want to kill everybody with a lot more detail of breaking down stories, because I want to get it into actually us breaking down with props and showing certain things. And we'll do that through each of these different Scrum videos, essentially answering the call on some of these issues particularly, and being able to point people to the right information. But having this series moving forward, I think, will help strengthen that community. So I'll take some feedback for a few minutes and then we'll wrap this particular episode up. We have other episodes coming out that I'm working on right now. We'll have one out tomorrow. People have asked for kind of a buying guide with Thanksgiving coming up. A lot of people are doing some shopping. We're kind of perusing the charts right now to see, here's some specific mining rigs. If you're going to build rigs, here's their particular output. We'll put some of those out to be just a dedicated video to where if you're out doing shopping and stuff, here's kind of a top 10 list type of thing. It seems like a few people are doing that, but we're going to take it from our perspective. That video should be hopefully out by tomorrow, and then we'll have another follow-up on just a general troubleshooting and buying guide. So 2 videos to that nature.
So they were saying if you could maybe make a Google Doc or something of this to put in the comments so that people can copy it. Someone compared it to like a GitHub.
Mm-hmm.
Are you trying to get information and then doing work tickets?
Yeah, no, that's great. We can absolutely do that. There is I was looking for an actual Scrum board where I could have these as issues and stories and stuff. And bottom line, if I was trying to open it up to community, it doesn't really kind of exist at scale to where I could have like tons of people committing. The best thing closest to that was like a Wikipedia. But yes, doing like a Google Doc that people can go and share and make copies of or make updates to. We can put something like that out there. We can do that tonight. That won't take much. There's not much up here right now. So yeah, I could put that together. The suggestions can come in on the actual YouTube channel too. Just put suggestions. I can copy those in. We actually use a piece of software. It's like TubeBuddy. is something that we pay for that actually allows us to capture all the comments and just things like that into Excel really quickly so I can peruse it really quick. I don't have to scroll through it or any of that. So we do have some extra toolkits that help us pull some of that information. You can also go out onto Discord and do some collaborative and sharing out there. There's a suggestions area on there. On bitsbetrippin.com, there's Discord there. You come into there and you'll have to get your avatar and stuff set up, but once you're in there, there's a suggestions window there that you can start dropping some suggestions in there. And then once we can get this up into like a web form, then we'll have it to where you guys can just submit changes to this. Because that's the ultimate goal, is the 6 to 8 weeks piece is there is a coding component to this that we're working to where you guys will just put information into a form just to say, hey, here's my experience, here's my picture upload, here's what's working for me, here's some other information that I want to add to that. And then it would be kind of like wiki style to where we review that and then commit it to the site. And then it gets added as an entry on there. So that's the goal, is we want to make sure that we're dedicated to put that on there. Your guys is awesome. You know, clicking the affiliates, hitting our site, doing the things that you're doing helps us finance that part of it. Because again, we're not trying to raise funds with this or anything like that on, you know, direct means. You know, it's just purely a contribution piece. So I take those and bring in extra development when we get that, so we do appreciate that piece of it. But this is the kind of stuff that I really wish, and hopefully through this you guys can learn some more. I can help refine this approach to where maybe somebody, you know, talking to a few people, they were concerned. They're like, you know, hey, you're giving away, you know, something that you know, somebody could probably go and make money on. They're going to steal your stuff and they're going to put it on a thing. And all I got to say to that is there's a lot of recipes and there's a lot of ingredients to everything on the web. But there ain't a lot of people cooking, right? So this is a lot of information. Somebody wants to go ahead and try to build this and do this and commit the funds and build something. That's great. And that's what you get a lot with a lot of these ICOs. You get an awesome recipe and you get the ingredients that they're going to use, but nobody's cooking at all, right? So welcome to the Food Network, where I'm going to show you the content and we're going to build this together. Even getting it to this part and then that reciprocation back to the websites, it being cooked and delivered, right? So maybe this is the new style of the way the ICOs are people that are contributing from a development standpoint that can be more transparent. Maybe this is a different way to do it. Show the results. You know, show it live, answer questions. You know, maybe that transparency and that interaction, because we're going to get information. You guys are going to provide a lot of content to us. And we're just going to move that up there to where everybody else can share it. So that's the point. So I think I beat that like a dead horse.
They said another category that would be great would be showing different hardware wallets and what coins are viable within those different wallets. Does that make sense?
Yep. Wallets. From the hardware side. Software could be wallets too. We're missing that one. Hardware and software wallets. And then see that in that kind of concept, if somebody is asking about adding hardware wallets under what? So the portfolio would be wallet. The content of that, the story would be under wallets would be type of coins on hardware wallets. And a task under that would be how to use wallet. The task is the stuff that you guys really want to get down to, right? That's the stuff. Like we're saying the content, what it is, you drill down and then you get to the task. The task in this world, in the normal software world, is the part that is where the magic happens, right? Usually you have the bigger epic, hey, I want to build a, if we take it from a hardware side, I'm going to build a car. The portfolio is, that car is going to be a V8, it's going to have all this stuff. The story is going to be like, it's going to have a seat and it's going to have a seat that's 8-way lumbar and all that. The task is going to be the mechanical engineering side of actually making that shit happen, right? So this is a breakdown of process, right? The task is what the developers are working on. They read the user story and say, you want to do some cool stuff. Cool story, bro. What's the test output of that, right? So in a test-driven development is saying, here's my expectations are. If you can pass that test, you've made the code right, right? So the task is where all the magic happens. That's where everything comes together. That's the output. Some of this stuff already has tasks delivered. We already have part of this project. If I was doing a project and this was the actual project bar, we're about here in completion. Because some of this content I already have videos on. So now it's just a matter of saying, when we get to a particular thing of like how to use Wattman, I can reference the stuff I already got and just include it with a timestamp there, right? So it allows you guys to drill quickly on how to do it. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. We've already created a lot of the content. This is just mapping it, essentially. A story map, right? So the task area gets down into the how.
So boss lady is all excited. She goes, what do we do on a Friday night? We collab with BBT, Nerd Life.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I'm hoping that this is a good segue to I mean, hardware reviews are cool and we love them. I like digging into the hardware, but this is kind of my background and my specialty is to lead projects, lead them to delivery. So it isn't the marketing and selling piece of it. I've done a lot of that. If you guys have been around me enough to understand that I'm always selling hard, right? I mean, that's just what I like to do. But the secret sauce to getting a project done and structuring it in such a way to deliver pieces of information to the people that are doing the task and allowing them an iterative process to deliver said task over a period of time allows for you to at least show progress that you can then go and work with whoever's funding it or whatever that to show, hey, here's our trajectory. We've done these things. Can I get a release out and make people happy, right? So it is driving, and that was probably below the thing so they can't see that. It's driving that process. The only way I feel that this way helps me focus my attention on content that I wanted to get out, but just kind of like second guess of like, well, do they really want that? Are they want to partake in that? And the contributions you guys give back to this of saying, yes, you know, that's what we want. You know, you're not just telling us what you want to hear. You've given us some of the content here already. You know, let's start to form that. That helps me stay motivated on it. And then, you know, your guys' contribution helps me go get people to help me even get it more motivated. And, you know, it isn't about giving either. Like, you know, if you're out there just doing normal Amazon shopping and stuff like that, bouncing off one of our links. If you're a developer and you're like, hey, man, I've written something like this. Here's my GitHub. You know, give me some props when you go to launch it, but go for it. That kind of stuff too. It's not just a monetary thing. This is the goal. The goal isn't necessarily money. I mean, we're mining, so we're driving some value there of trying to earn money, but the goal here is to provide a platform to grow the community, right? So if people have information that can help with this, I'm all about trying to collaborate to make that occur, right? We already have a website, we have web servers, we have all that kind of back-end stuff. Now it's just a matter of getting this information accurate enough to get it out there that people can show that it's, you know, hey, that's what works, and that I purchased this and I did this config and holy shit, it's generating, you know, cryptocurrency for me. Excellent. So hopefully I haven't babbled on too much. I wanted to try to keep this one tight. What we're going to do is we'll expand this down. I'm going to drill this level down on the next video. We'll kind of do just a quick overview of it. Do we have?
They asked where exchanges fit on that.
On this particular thing, I would put exchanges probably under tools, because it's not necessarily on mining resource. It's an event. It's a tool that you can exchange your. Yeah,
because they're like somewhere factor in how we get paid in that scenario.
Yeah, so a tool would be an exchange. I mean, so you're going to go out to a wallet, which is going to be a piece of software at the end of the day. You're going to have a software wallet that you'll link to your hardware wallet, right? Because your link to your hardware wallet is essentially just a more cryptic key to allow you to acknowledge the sending of a transaction, right? That hardware wallet is validating that you're using your private key and you're good. So it's still a software wallet. The exchange piece is more of a tool. I mean, you can use it as a wallet, but I look at it as exchange as a tool because it's performing a function. It's performing a function of transitioning one crypto to another, right? Or if you're going to like Coinbase and you're sending it to your bank account, that's a function that's happening. That's a tool to make you be able to get back to your ROI, at least from a cash standpoint. If you went out and charged $2,000 on a mining rig, you mined for 7 months, you've been mining Ethereum, you've made 8 to 10 Ethereum, something like that, in not much time. Ethereum's at 3, well, you're probably making more like 6 Ethereum on one rig probably. But let's say Ethereum doubles because the futures trading really drives everything up. And now you're like, oh shit, I'm going to sell 3 of those Ethereum because they're at 600 a piece, 680 a piece. And now I'm going to be able to pay my rig back off and I can get out of my credit card debt because I did 6 months same as cash, right, on my rig. So you got those kind of situations, that you're going to want to know where and how and what makes sense, right? So having that as our tool, that's a good add. Miss BBT needs her own microphone. I agree. I am going to get her. Would somebody tip us 20?
Yeah, they did. There's 5 rings.
5 rings, dropped the 20 spot on there. So with that 20 spot, 5 rings, I'm going to get her a microphone, a wireless mic that I can pipe in. And you guys can hold me to that.
Someone said you should be working for Tesla. I said if anybody knows Elon, he's ready.
That's the one guy I'm surprised I haven't ever had any kind of interaction with out here, as Elon.
They want BBT coins, tokens on Ubik backbones. They
BBT
were talking
coins.
about an ICO earlier. Somebody was like, I got 30K, let's do this now.
Yeah,
I'm like, it's turning into Shark Tank in here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're trying to get this out there. It pains me to see ICOs run up all of that cash and we don't see a lot of results. And part of it is, and I'm not going to make an excuse. So, I mean, where were we at? We're at 42 minutes. So 42 minutes kind of cut off for this, and I'll get on my ICO bag here for a second. It is infinitely complex to try to do some of the things that they're trying to say that they're going to do with the blockchain right now. Factual. That being said, there's no reason why none of them can do this transparent. You're not giving the whole recipe away, but laying out a plan. You know what? I'm going to erase this. Do they care about this?
No, don't erase it.
Well, yeah. Well, we got it on the video. I can always take a screenshot.
Your face is in the way. Move.
No, but I'm going to erase it because I'm going to write.
No, well, move out of the way so there's a clear shot.
All right. Yeah. If you guys want to take a shot of this particular thing, Richard Porter on the 100 spot.
Yeah, that one's for me, not you.
Like a boss.
Just saying. It says that on
Oh, it says Miss BBT. Sugar Daddy. All right.
Here,
So
give me your phone. I'll take a pic.
Yeah, here. You can well, I mean, I don't know why you're taking a pic when we have it on video, but in 4K, but that's okay. Well, actually, I'm taking it in 4K. So, all right. Now to the ICO little issue.
Double backups.
Double backups. Yeah, because YouTube's going to go down. And so anybody that's running an ICO that finds my video for some reason, I'm giving you the keys to the kingdom. And it's free. This is the way BBT does it. This is open source free knowledge on how to convince the world that you guys are doing something positive. And I don't want even to call this faking it till you make it, but essentially you, for some reason, insert said ICO name, have convinced said insert group of people to bequeath you with tons of potential revenue to then convert to cash to build a awesome product that you have claimed that you're going to make. Having a roadmap, even simple, with a target date and a current date, and putting just some basic outlines of what your intentions are. And I'm going to cite a perfect example of the first ICO on the planet, which I think it was the first ICO on the planet, which was Ethereum, of soliciting Bitcoin for their token to say, here's a roadmap of what we're going to do. We're building a platform. It's going to do all this cool stuff with smart contracts. We're going to make this awesome platform. And they put roadmap outputs where, let's say, most current, Byzantine 2, and Casper as some of their major things. And we have a basic, and don't mind my writing because I talk and just assume that I've written that.
No, so, I just saw some Billy Mays hand motions there. I was just...
Yeah, Billy Mays. So...
oh, wait, there's more.
You know, zero proofs, snarks, functionality, dedicated. Functionality in here, you can put whatever. This, POS. There's a roadmap. There's delivery that has occurred. There's still bugs and functional things. If Richard Hart was on here, he'd be typing in the chat right now going, it's shit and I hate it. And that's okay. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. However, there's a roadmap and there's progress on said roadmap. There's value for the money that people invested. There's people working on things and showing forward progress. If there isn't, it's real simple. It's like, hey, you know what? We're trying and we went too high. We went for the moon, right? And it's not who we have and what we have. We've tried and we're just not able to do it, right? There's that. There could be that possibility for people, right? But having a roadmap and then talking to it and being transparent with it. That's that whole recipe, ingredient, and then your delivery, you're making it.
They just stopped talking about tacos, and there you go again.
I know. You should be perfectly safe, by and large, to do that. To disclose a good majority of that. Because there's other things. Like when I say ingredient, you can keep it top level. You can say spices. I don't need to tell you what kind of spices. I'm going to tell you JavaScript. I'm going to write it in JavaScript, and it's going to do these cool things. And here's my schedule of doing those cool things. But I'm not giving you the JavaScript that I'm writing. I'm not going to tell you that I'm using Node.js. I'm not going to tell you, right? That's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about from these communities that have these ICOs. That it doesn't compute to me like on any major program. It doesn't matter if it's a government program. It doesn't matter if it's a commercial program. There's program management, there's reporting, there's accountability, right? And those are just not cool words for boring people, right? Those are like things that are like, man, somebody gave us some money, we probably should show up and do some cool shit, right? A lot of people gave a lot of money to do a lot of cool stuff, and there's not a lot coming out from that community. And it might be not from bad intentions, right? I don't know. I don't know if, I mean, it looks like Basic Attention Coin's trying to do some stuff. They just integrated with the Brave browser. They're trying to do some stuff. That's forward motion. You know, that looks good for BAT's intentions. Now, if people take that on as a product and drive it, that's one thing. So part of it is a delivery. Getting to the point of delivery. Delivering on your promise. Customers coming in and actually buying said what you just delivered is a whole other thing. Promises is where the ICOs are at right now. Places like things like Ethereum, Ripple, that kind of stuff, and I know people, Ripple's, they're delivering stuff right now. Are they going to get customers that are going to buy that? Whole different thing, right? Is there a need for it? Is it moving the needle in some capacity? Is it ahead of its time, right? There's those kind of things, right? Is there regulation ready for it? Is there structure for it? I mean, we have no doubt that there's going to be currencies and coins out there that are going to allow like mobile phones to have in-game virtual currencies that should be based on a blockchain. And let's say you drop $100 into that video game and you're like, I'm done playing this video game, but I have a lot of the virtual currency. I want to be able to exchange that for some other new game I want to do. And you have this like intermediary of virtual currency moving around because you have some kind of exchange that can do it that's all based on maybe the blockchain. There's coins and ICOs out there promising to try to deliver that. And I have no doubt functionally they can make that occur. But they're going to have regulatory issues because now you're a money changer. You could have anti-money laundering things that come into that. So all these cool ideas, when you guys are looking at ICOs, you're looking at buying into ICOs. Understand regulatory frameworks. Understand some of those things that like why that's like the best thing since sliced bread. If it's a value exchange of money and money laundering could be done as part of that, you're going to have scrutiny on those ICOs. Even if they build the code, even if they deliver on time, they're going to have those kind of different issues. So that kind of stuff. So as part of it's getting some of them across that line to where they can actually deliver shit across the roadmap and give people confidence that they're doing something with the money. And then there's the big bet at the end, as if they can actually get customers to partake in it. That's a whole other thing. So I kind of sit on the sidelines. We have our own little brand with BBT, and I'm trying to bring some content to you guys and stuff like that. But that's the kind of stuff that I see from an operational standpoint that kind of concerns me. Some of these coins have raised a ton of money, and I sit here and think, I'm like, I have built or been part of teams that have built completely end-to-end production systems from scratch for less than 10 million. Full development team, 18-month runway, done. Working, accepted by customers for far less in a lot more scrutinized environments. I've done that with 2 million. So I don't understand how some of these ICOs can have $140 million and not deliver anything. It's just, it doesn't make sense. Like, because you could have convinced people to send you that money and then said, oh shit, let's go build a product, and built it, right, with that kind of runway, right? I mean, Elon did it with a lot less and built a space company, right? I mean, he had like less than $60 million and built SpaceX or something. You can not quote me on that number because I think it might have been a little more. But, I mean, that's like crazy talk, right? So I just don't get it. But that's me on my soapbox, and hopefully that looks like I lost some people. I think they were like, dude, we don't care. Just show us some computers.
What is he selling? We don't get it.
What is he selling? We don't get it. I'm ranting on ICOs. So,
do you like an off-topic question?
Sure.
Server PSUs.
Server PSUs.
Why don't you use them more often in rigs?
So server PSUs are great. The HPs, the ones that you see on eBay, they're good. Typically, when I was first starting to do a lot of the videos, the basic concept was this. It was you could build a mining rig. Part of the reason to build a mining rig is that it was a cross-hedged against the currency. You had a particular piece of equipment that had value, agnostic to whatever happened to the cryptocurrency world. If the cryptocurrency world went way south and you just couldn't hold on to the machine because it was a sunk investment until it came back up, then you needed to have an exit point that wasn't all your money gone, right? So buying a traditional power supply has another need for a machine, for a computer. You could sell it. You could reuse that component in a computer. You could take those computer components, sell, let's say if you had a 6-card rig, you could sell 4 of the graphics card, recoup most of your costs because most of the cost is in the graphics card. You could pull that power supply, the motherboard, the CPU, the memory, and 2 of the graphics card and have one hell of a gaming computer, right? So it was the ability to take that component and put it into something else. I look at server power supplies as kind of that next level up. The ROI difference between a server power supply, if you're working on like a 6 or an 8-card rig, you're gonna save maybe $80 by doing that, and that's great. You'll make up you'll get ROI a little faster, but then you're gonna have this component that pretty much after you're done, it's almost like an ASIC piece where it's kind of like, oh, that's cool, but I really am not going to put that into a computer. So that's why I don't really push it and suggest people to get it. That being said, if you're going to build a couple mining rigs and that's all they're ever going to be, it's probably the best route to go because it's a platinum level certified power supply most of the time. They're going to have a lot more better reliability because they were designed to run a lot more constant because they were supposed to be in a server. Servers are running 24/7, 365 for 5+ years. That's their job. So a typical home commercial power or non-commercial power supply is made to have cycles, be turned off and on. It's going to be more rigid on the start and stop sequences because it's starting and stopping all the time, right? It's designed mechanically to where it's not made to be ran at RMS full load constantly. So they both have their kind of ups and downs. One, from a cost recovery standpoint, you have a better deal with a normal power supply. But if that doesn't matter and you're going to build 2 or 3 rigs, the server power supply is the better one to go with. What was that? I'm reading some of their comments.
No, they were saying your tangents are good.
All right, we're gonna close this one at exactly 1 hour. We're at 55 minutes, so I'll take a few more questions. Hopefully you guys like this. I mean, we only had about 114. It is a Friday night. But hopefully you guys, if you guys, the 114 in here, if you guys can help me share this, get this out there. I do want the feedback from the community. Help us grow this database to, really get out to the folks out there. I think they all fell asleep. I forgot why I subbed this.
Because mining is awesome.
Yeah, because mining is awesome. Well, hopefully you've been around long enough, Tony, that you've picked up some other level of information. What's the scoop with BHC?
BCH.
What is it?
BCH.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I can't see that. This freaking new laptop has, like, really sharp display.
Really sharp, I gotta squint.
I do, I'm getting old. Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Cash is one of those things that, I mean, I could have a whole video on. So, that's another opinion piece. I don't know if they want to hear that. What database platform are you planning to use? Right now we're using MySQL, but we can move it over into MariaDB or another database. I want to store it in a database. We're using Angular 2 right now on the development of the front end.
We're most likely not doing our own ICO, right?
No, I mean, so when you're doing your own ICO, ICOs are... I would do a different type of thing with an ICO. If we did any kind of, I would have to have a product that we're trying to build, a development team scope. I'd have everything mapped out before I ever went to solicit real money for a project, and it probably would not be through an ICO.
It'd be more legit than an ICO.
Well, I mean, ICOs can be legit. They're just like, you got to register them and you got to have a purpose, and the coin should hold a utility. If it doesn't have a utility, then it's a security. Go. What about Bitcoin Cash? Yes, we want to hear it. So, okay. Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Cash is one of those things that I think it's always going to exist because it's forked and it's got support and it's going to be an alt currency forever. I think it errs very strongly in the wrong way of trying to prove itself as the primary Bitcoin. Core devs of Bitcoin, you strip everything away. Everybody goes away from Bitcoin if they just got so mad and angry. It continues to live. It continues to move on. It's bigger than any of the squabbles. It's bigger than any of the people that are trying to push it in any other direction. Bigger than the Bilderberger, it's bigger than all of them. Because at the end of the day, it's still a utility. People are still going to store it as a store value. From a transactional world currency stuff, the whole narrative that's being talked about, there was a time and a place where people would talk about, oh, it's going to be the currency of the world. It never made sense to me from the beginning. And I read the white paper in 2010. 2011 probably read the white paper. I got into Bitcoin in 2010, got read and went more deeper into what the hell it was, sort of trying to mine it in 2011. And what I really got from that was, from a transactional standpoint, it never made sense unless they were going to completely change the way the mechanics work to get the throughput to need all of those particular people making transactions at the same time, right? So it was either an alt currency was going to have to fulfill the daily transactional requirement, and Bitcoin would always be a store of value. It would always be going up. It is like, from my perspective, it's not something that I would want to spend because it goes up in value too much. I've spent Bitcoin like anybody else and regret the spending of it, because it's like, well, hell, that's a very expensive graphics card now. So I look at Bitcoin as like a store of value. I look at Bitcoin Cash not even as a currency of transaction of what the narrative is telling you. Everybody is saying what it is. Agnostic to the people's backgrounds that are trying to run it, and Roger doing the things that he's doing. From just a purist standpoint, agnostic to the rules, functionally, it's not a world currency. It doesn't have the transactional speed. If a proportionate portion of the world try to use it as a currency in real time, it would shut down just like Bitcoin. It just doesn't have the throughput. It never would have the throughput. It's not designed to have the throughput for that, right? I mean, even with lightning channels and all this other stuff like that, when you start really thinking about the real-time transactional piece of it, if we're looking for that transitional piece of it, it's going to be through a software enhancement that's a bridge pair with, a pairwise connection to an off-chain thing that allows for rapid transaction and post actions, every few minutes, right, of all the sub-transactions that just occurred, right? It's not going to ever be a real-time thing. So from a Bitcoin Cash standpoint, it's not Bitcoin. It never's going to be Bitcoin. Bitcoin is Bitcoin. So from the purist standpoint, the people that were like, hey, I follow the chain, it's split, bro, and you named it something different. So the main chain stayed this way, you went this way, it's what it is, right? So what I would say to those people that really push Bitcoin Cash is push it and try to create value that's differentiating, that has its own thing. Trying to attack another one is futile, and people see through it. It's a waste of time, and it's a waste of money. And you're going to disenchant people, the very people that you're trying to enchant to move over to you. The pump and dump that happened on Saturday was probably the worst thing you could do. It was good from a media standpoint, because now there's all the media sees this huge volatility and they think that something's going on. But the institutional investors, the people that understand that game, that are probably the world's best at that game, are looking at it and kind of laughing, right? With the CFD and everybody coming in and starting to do futures trading on that stuff, it's counterintuitive to do the things that they're doing on the Bitcoin Cash side. If they continue to keep their lane and show its value add and show the differentiation and show the use cases that you can use it more often with lower fees, and here's all this stuff, that would be a better approach, because then maybe people will use it kind of like if we want to make some transfers in particular currencies, or if I'm trying to onboard somebody that I know to let them understand, all right, now I'm transacting in Litecoin, right? Because the fees are low and it's fast and it works and it's going to gain value. It's been gaining value, and it's consistent and I can rely on it, right? Ethereum a few times is not very good as a currency, right? I mean, the network's had issues before, and I transact most often in Litecoin and in Dogecoin. Dogecoin of all things, because Dogecoin works every time I send it. It's always worked. And I send thousands of them, to people. And it's not that much money, but it's like, hey, you want to into the cryptocurrency? Oh, here, have 10,000 Doge, right? And they're like, oh my God, I got 10,000 units of something, right? I think Doge and coins like that facilitate that barrier of entry for people. That's why I think it gives them purpose. When people are like, oh, Dogecoin's a shit coin, all this, I think it serves as a barrier of entry into the space. The penalty for failure if they lose their wallet, the penalty for failure if them just trying to get used to it or didn't back up their stuff, is a lot barrier of entry that you could stomach that loss. Doing that in Bitcoin, that's the worst ever. I mean, I've lost Bitcoin wallets more than I'd like to tell you about. But I mean, having Dogecoin wallet, you know, a couple thousand here and there, send to friends. Oh, you lost it, that's okay. Here's another 10,000 Doge, right? So I think that the coins serve purpose. If they can differentiate themselves of what their value add is to the community, is even better. So attacking each other sucks. That's my piece on Bitcoin Cash. So it wasn't super negative. I'm just telling them to pivot. Make a choice. You're not Bitcoin. Pick a lane and grow it. All right, I went a little over. Hopefully that was value for you guys. Like, subscribe, go out there, contribute to this. Check the links, check our stuff on bitsbetrippin.com. We still got some shirts out there too. Might have to do like a Black Friday deal or something. Go out there, check out some stuff, and stay subscribed. We'll bring some more stuff to you guys. Thanks for hanging in there through some of my rants, and hopefully this was information to add.